What's going on, Radiant Youth? My name is Sam Canchola, and today we're continuing our series, Start the Party. If this is your first time with Radiant Youth, you came on the perfect night because the past couple weeks we've been learning about how Jesus partied. That might be news to you, but yes, Jesus partied. Except how he partied was always intentional to show us what mattered. We're all different when it comes to partying. Some of us love being around all kinds of people, and some of us love to just hang out with a close few friends. However you party, today we want to talk about how there's a place for everybody, or at least there should be, right? And today I want to show how Jesus made sure everyone was invited to the party. But first, let me ask, have you ever felt like an outsider? Like you were in a place and you just didn't fit in? In a lot of group settings, there tends to be two groups. There tends to be insiders and there tends to be outsiders. Think about it. This probably happens in your school, your neighborhood, your team, your friendships, maybe even at home, and honestly, maybe even here. If we're not careful, we could be the ones making other people feel like they're out by only talking to the people who look like us, think like us, do what we do. Here's the thing. The kind of party that Jesus is inviting us all to be a part of in this life is a party filled with all sorts of different people. And let me be clear. When we say party here, we're not talking about a literal party. We mean any effort to celebrate, serve, or enjoy being with others in a way that adds value to life. And so being a party starter means being someone who does that for all people. People who are like us and people who aren't. People who we're in with and people who we're out with. It's the thought that this invitation isn't exclusive, it's inclusive. And that means if we want to be party starters, we have to be the kind of people who see everyone as someone worthy of the invitation. Because in God's eyes, they are. But let's be real, it's not easy. And it doesn't always come naturally. So what would it look like for us to be party starters who include everyone? There's actually a story from Jesus' life that can help us out here. One of Jesus' friends, a guy named Matthew, recorded this story from the life of Jesus. So before we start reading, let me set the scene. Jesus had just accepted an invitation to have dinner at Matthew's house. And as we keep reading, we find out that he wasn't the only guest on the list. In fact, the table was filled with all kinds of people. Take a look. It says, later, Matthew invited Jesus and his disciples to his home as dinner guests, along with many tax collectors and other disreputable sinners. Now, disreputable sinners is pretty straightforward, but they were people with bad reputations. But tax collectors, on the other hand, that doesn't sound too bad, right? Well, back then, they were considered the most corrupt and frustrating people around. These were not the kinds of people anyone thought Jesus would be sharing a meal with. But does it surprise you to know Jesus shared a meal with people considered out in their ancient society? I mean, think about this. Jesus is sitting with people who could damage his reputation. In fact, a group of religious leaders at the time, some guys known as the Pharisees, had a real problem with this dinner party. Here's what they had to say about it. When the Pharisees saw this, they asked his disciples, "Why does your teacher eat with such scum?" Scum. For the Pharisees, the people around the table at the meal definitely didn't deserve the invitation to party with Jesus. The Pharisees were purposely keeping others on the outside. Not only that, but they were judging and questioning Jesus and his friends for not keeping them on the outside. Here's what Jesus said in response to them. When Jesus heard this, he said, "Healthy people don't need a doctor, sick people do." And then he added, "Now go and learn the meaning of this scripture. I want you to show mercy, not offer sacrifices. For I have come to call not those who think they are righteous, but those who know they are sinners." See, Jesus knew that people had a tendency to categorize the tax collectors and sinners as bad. And to be fair, they had definitely done some messed up stuff. But Jesus' response shows us that he saw them differently. He wasn't there to shame them or exclude them. He wasn't there to only spend time with people who lived just the way he did. And he wasn't concerned with who the Pharisees or anyone else thought he should give his time and attention to. No, Jesus came to care for those who needed him most. He came to show grace, love, and mercy to the sinners, the tax collectors, and anyone else who has ever been cast out of a group. He came to show mercy. And anytime we see an act of mercy, it's a direct reflection of what God is like. It's an opportunity to pause and take notice that you can see God at work every day. Now, if you were to ask me, what does it look like to show mercy in today's world? I'd say it looks like letting people know they belong at the table. Instead of excluding people, judging them, and keeping them on the outside, mercy invites them in. It's not just about seeing everyone as someone who deserves to be in, but it's also taking the step to invite them in. Because, lean in here with me, there's nothing worse than going somewhere and feeling isolated and unwanted, right? Now, on the other hand, though, there are few things that feel as good as someone making space for you and making sure you feel like you belong. I mean, think about it. Have you ever felt welcome and included by someone when you really needed it? It's a great feeling. And that's what Jesus did here. And that's what we can do for others. You see, the tax collectors and sinners might have been considered on the outside because of their behavior and previous actions. And honestly, maybe you've seen others the same way. Or maybe you've even been the one whom people see that way. Here's the good news. And let me say this clearly. That's not our job. Come on. Say it with me. That's not my job. We don't get to decide who is in and who is out. As the ultimate party starter, Jesus showed us that everyone has a seat at the table. Think of it this way. A party starter knows everyone is invited. Jesus showed the tax collectors and sinners that he didn't see them the way others did. Jesus didn't listen to the labels, he wasn't stuck on the gender, and he wasn't looking at their past. They had a seat at his table. They were invited. And the same is here at Radiant Youth. Everyone is invited, and you have a seat at the table. We have the incredible opportunity to start the party by remembering that everyone, us included, is in with God. And I hope you know that you're in a place where you feel included, a place where everyone knows that they're in. This is why we have small groups. We want these to be safe spaces where you can show up just as you are and find yourself surrounded by people who want to make sure you know are invited to the party. So I hope you'll lean into that as you continue talking about this with your group. I love you all, and I can't wait to hear all the life change that comes out of this. Be blessed.